If she goes, well, I feel this way about that, and she expects you to take how she feels and apply it to some action that you're supposed to implement, that's going to be difficult. So one of the things you can say would be helpful to me if you would just come right out and tell me what you need instead of putting me in a situation where I have to guess how you feel or guess what I'm supposed to do based on how you feel or read your mind about what you need. Just point blank, come right out and tell me what you need. You said that sometimes she feels like it's just a lot of work to explain. As a general rule of thumb, you could say with the business of over-explaining and she gets tired of doing that, then here's your line again. It would be helpful to me if instead of giving me a lengthy explanation, if you could just give me like the summary or the main point. So you're not accusing her of doing anything wrong when you say it would be helpful to me, and you're asking her two things. One, just tell me what you need so I don't have to read my wife's emotions and figure it out. And also it would be helpful to me if you could summarize the main point or main points, and that would save you from a lengthy explanation, because I'm sure that a 10-minute conversation, this might be hard, this is hard for them to do because the female NT brain doesn't think like this. But it would be possible to take a 10-minute monologue and whittle it down to a 10-second main point. She's not going to like doing that because she thinks she's got a data dump on you. That's how they think. The more data, the better, because that's how they think. When they're trying to figure stuff out and they're listening to somebody else, they want as much data as you can pour it on, because that helps them with their processing and decision making and understanding of stuff. It doesn't work like that for the ASD man. Data dumping ends up in meltdowns and shutdowns, or just in false agreement. Yeah, honey, I hear what you're saying. Sure, yeah, I'll do it. Right. But then we get into trouble because you just agreed to get the conversation over with, and then you missed the good message, or you missed something that you were supposed to do. And so now we got to go face that issue at some point. Like help rejecting complainer. She doesn't want the problem solved, because whenever the problem is solved, she's lost the thing to complain about, and her big payoff is in the complaint. I fully understand wanting to vent, but if you just want to vent without follow-up with problem solving, I can't help you. If you just want to vent and we're just going to leave it at that, then I'm not interested in listening to your venting. If you want to vent and then we talk about solving the issue, I'm all ears. I'm not trying to be insensitive or uncaring. I'm trying to be a problem solver. If she's not going to be a team player, she just wants to complain, well, I'm not playing that game. I'm not going to be your doormat. And so, okay, whenever you want to tackle the business of actually problem solving, let me know. In the meantime, I'm not going to just sit here and take it. You left the door open then. This isn't a version of you shutting down. You told her you have the option to come back to me when you want to actually problem solve. But you've also set some boundaries. I'm not just going to sit here and let you dump on me. So you're setting boundaries, but you've also left the door open for her. Now she gets to decide. Do I just want to be a help rejecting complainer, or do I want to solve the damn thing?
My recommendation would be to not apologize anymore, because when you continue to say, I'm sorry you feel that way and this and that, if she's already rejected your apologies, I can promise you, your I'm sorries will just be insulting to her at this point. She will download that as more insincerity. Save yourself the breath. A better line might be, I understand that even though I didn't intend to hurt you, it hurt anyway, and what can I do to help? That's your line. Remove I'm sorry from your vocabulary. Here's the new line. I didn't intend to do that particular thing, but I understand it hurts you anyway. What can I do to help? If he were here, he would say, I always feel like I'm letting her down. I never meet her expectations. And it seems to me, in his download mind, it seems to me that it doesn't matter what I say or do, it's never good enough. I always feel like I'm failing. He's also equating you wanting to continue to refine the marriage and the relationship, and why wouldn't you? He's making the mistake that because she's wanting to continue to refine means she's unhappy. Not necessarily. There's probably sometimes when you were trying to fine tune the relationship or at least keep it from going off the rails and you were unhappy, but just because she, whoever she is, wants to work on the relationship, which by the way, everybody's supposed to be doing until you're dead, his download is because she continues to work on the relationship. Actually, he wouldn't even call it that, because she continues to complain about the relationship. Therefore, she's unhappy. The positive reframe that he's not going to use is, she cares about me, she cares about the relationship. That's why she's trying to continue to work on it from getting worse and try to make it better. And just because she's doing that doesn't mean she's unhappy. You're not responsible for his downloads. If he's downloading it as, well, you're just so critical and you're impossible to please and your expectations are too high, that doesn't mean you're doing all that shit. That just simply means that's his download. You need to look at the difference between of the things that he accuses me of. Remember, we're talking about a positive reframe is to get in alignment, as close to alignment with reality as possible. Mm-hmm. Is the stuff that he's accusing me of in alignment with reality, or is it way out of reality? It's just that happens to be the way he's skewing reality in his downloads. We have to make a huge paradigm shift. This is going to be hard to do for you and others. I mean, I'm really going out on a limb here and asking a lot of you. But in the spirit of happy wife, happy life. Some of you are probably sick of that cliche, but it is so true. Because when she's all pissed off, unless you're just gone at work or you've taken off and shut down somewhere, it's like a dark cloud hanging over. It's worse than a dark cloud hanging over your head. It's a dark cloud that's raining on you and striking you in the ass with lightning. So in the spirit of keeping the peace, we have to make this shift from, I'm going to listen to mount a defense because I know I'm right and she's wrong, over to, I'm going to listen to understand her perspective. And this is going to take practice, and you're going to flub it up, and you don't beat up on yourself when you flub it up. You just go, okay, well, I got all passionate again, and I know I'm right, and her opinion is just basically dumb. I can't even believe she believes that. But now I got to go back to the blackboard and try again. And that's fine. There's going to be a lot of trying again, a lot of fail, try, fail, try, fail. That's the way it's supposed to go. That's the way it will go. You practice. Here it is again. Now, I'm not talking about every conversation, the weather, sports, the stuff that you're really adamant about. There needs to be a little trigger goes off in your head. Okay, this is a hot topic for me, and this is where I usually go nuclear and insist that my way is the only way. So what I'm going to do instead, to reduce my relationship stress, I'm not even doing this for her, is I'm going to listen instead of thinking about what I'm getting ready to say so I can mount a very factual, smart defense. I'm going to now listen to understand. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to look in her direction. I'm going to nod while she's talking. I'm going to tactfully stop her periodically before she goes on too long, because I want to paraphrase back what she said. And if she gets on to point 2 and 3 in her message delivery, I may forget what point 1 was. So when she gets on to point number 2 or 3, I'm going to say, would you mind if I check and make sure I got it so far? So what I understand you're saying is blah, 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 blah. And you're going to paraphrase, not parrot back. You're going to paraphrase back. She might say, no, that's not what I mean. You can say, well, would you mind trying again with slightly different wordage? She'll try it again. You'll get it the first or second time out. You'll say, so what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. She's going to say, yes, that's what I mean. That proves understanding. If you can paraphrase back what she said and she goes, yes, that's what I mean, that by default proves understanding. If you're more interested in keeping the peace than making a point, then while she's talking, have the thought,
I'm listening to understand, and I'm going to paraphrase this back here in a minute, versus I'm listening, but not really. I'm thinking about how I'm going to come back and mount a defense. You have to make that shift.
Hey, this is Mark, and I got a message to the husbands out there with ASD level 1. You know, there's these standard marriage vows, which you may not have used at your ceremony, wedding ceremony, but you've heard of them before. One of the lines in there goes something along the line of to have and to hold. You remember that part? When's the last time you held your wife? If she were here, would she say, oh, I get held regularly, or never? There's another section in those marriage vows that says something along the lines of to love and to cherish. You remember that part? When's the last time you cherished your wife? If she were here, would she say, oh yeah, I feel cherished and valued? Or would she say, no, I largely feel ignored and insignificant? So the guys are probably listening to this video and thinking, well, hell, Mark, is this a guilt trip? Fuck yes, it is. A well-placed one. You get if your marriage was a job, you would have been fired by now for not meeting your obligations. Your marriage comes with certain duties. In a sense, it is a job. So if I was your teacher, some of you be getting a big fat F- on your marriage report card. Well, I have these traits and it makes me look like I'm a narcissist. Yeah, that's true. But you can learn social skills and you can cultivate some emotional literacy, specifically as it relates to coping in a neurodiverse marriage. I know you have a hard wiring that makes it appear as if you're selfish, insensitive, uncaring, and all that. But there's still workarounds, I call them, where you can function largely as a neurotypical in most cases. Yes, I just said it. You have no excuse. This is going to sound like a commercial, and I don't care. I have groups for men, yeah, who are struggling to stay afloat in their marriage. And we look at social skills, we look at emotional literacy, we look at give and take in conversation, how to offer some emotional reciprocity, what to do in the way of affection and validation and listening. Really simple stuff that a 3-year-old can do. It's not rocket science, and the only reason you're not doing it now is because you don't know how to do it. I'm not going to be able to turn you into a neurotypical, and I wouldn't want to, and you wouldn't want to. We don't need that. But you're not a robot. You're not an automaton. You're not a hologram. You're not Spock. You've got a lot of love and compassion and emotion in there and empathy in there, just waiting to be seen. I can help you reveal that to your significant other. She'd probably appreciate the hell out of that. So, in the meantime, how about holding your wife for 10 seconds? Wouldn't that be a hell of a note? Are you so damn busy you don't have 10 seconds to hold your wife? You know, on your deathbed, I don't think you're going to ever have the thought, gosh, I sure wished I'd had more time to play video games. Man, I really wished I could have spent more time at work. I don't think you're going to have those thoughts. You might want to make up for lost time, and I would begin sooner than later. Look up what cherish means in the dictionary and start exhibiting some of that behavior. Do you feel sufficiently chastised at this point? Good.
Always throwing the past in my face. There's two past things. Stuff that you can't change at this point, and past stuff that presently you could do something about. So if she's going to throw the past in your face and there's no way to go back and rectify anything on that particular topic, you're just going to have to be okay with her being pissed off. You can't climb in your time tunnel and go back and fix it. Now, if it's a past incident that you can currently do something about, then you use the line that we just said. Okay, well, I can't go back and erase that, but is there anything I can do about that today? With the first one, where you can't go back and fix it, let her be the one stuck in the past. You're just going to have to be okay with her being stuck back there. The past issue that you can do something about, just ask. Okay, well, I can't go back and erase that from our history, but is there something that I can do now, today? If the answer is yes, then now you have the choice to do something about it or not. Forgiveness is letting go of resentment. Resentment is simply replaying the past events in your head. Rewatching the movies. We're using his NT wife as the example. She goes back in time and replays the movies. That is resentment. She has a lot of memories, and she goes back and revisits those memories. And when she goes back, she not only remembers what was said and done that she downloaded for you as hurtful, she also feels the same emotions she felt back then. So replaying those movies is resentment. Forgiveness is simply letting go of resentment. In other words, I'm not going to replay those old videos in my head anymore. That is forgiveness. That's her job. That's her work. You can't fix the past. You can't move her to forgiveness, which is letting go of resentment, which is letting go of rehashing the old movies of what was said and done, and then feeling that old pain again. You are totally helpless. And this goes into the I can't control it filing cabinet. Now, if it's a past problem that's also a current problem, well, that's fair game. So if it's something that happened in the past that hurt her and you're still doing it, well, now you've got some work to do. But as far as going back, where are you going to find your time tunnel? If you could go back in time and erase the blackboard and start from a clean slate, well, we have a whole different conversation. Reality doesn't work like that. You're going to have to pick up from today and move forward. And you have to realize that it's going to take her a long time to let go of that resentment. And she may never get there. She may never get there. Whose problem is that? It's hers. It's not going to hurt you. When she's playing those old movies and replaying the hurt, you don't even know what's going on in her head. She is slowly destroying her own mental health by replaying the movies. All of your wives need to be watching this movie here. So, well, what, Mark, am I just helpless? I can't do anything about fixing the past? That is correct. But, and this is a big but, you have some control about re-injuring from this point forward. You have the ability to not re-injure, and that is your job. Her job is letting go of resentment. Your job is making sure you're not doing anything from this point forward that she might resent. You're going to have to forgive yourself for making these relationship mistakes. That's a hard one to do. You're going to have to go, okay, well, I didn't know what I was dealing with. Yeah, I was an asshole, but sometimes, honestly, it was just a trait of the disorder, and I'm dodging paintballs all day and have high anxiety, so a lot of this stuff was, even though I'm not making excuses, it was definitely a part of autism. I know what I'm dealing with now, and so now that I have the label, ASD level 1, I know what strengths and weaknesses come with that, and so now I have some really good ideas of where my work needs to begin. But I can't go back and fix the past, and I'm not going to beat up on myself about the fact that I can't fix the past. But by God, I can make sure I don't re-injure from this point forward. If she were here, she would say that you don't provide enough emotional reciprocity, that you don't listen. I'm just going to make some things up that you've probably heard. You don't listen, you don't empathize, you don't validate me, and so on and so on. You've probably heard it all many times before. And so if this has gone on for years and years and years, you may have experienced this too. She is super resentful and bitter and angry and maybe even at some level revengeful,
And so what has happened, and I'm not blaming you guys, you're wired the way that you're wired. There's nothing wrong with you. It is what it is. But by virtue of your supposed lack of empathy and her heightened resentment, we're going to call that a cancer in the relationship. And for any of you who have had cancer or know somebody who has gone through severe cancer, you know what's involved. It's a long, drawn-out, painful process. There may be surgery to remove the tumor. There may be chemotherapy. There may be radiation therapy. And after all of the different treatments are done, there's follow-up appointments to get blood work and blah, blah, blah. And it's a long, hard road, at least 6 months and sometimes 2 years, assuming you even beat the cancer. So you guys are experiencing a relationship cancer right now, and you're in the middle. You've just begun treatment last week. Last Wednesday, you just began treatment. And so the whole point of this conversation is that you can, as much as I almost hate to say it, because it sounds kind of disconcerting at some level, you guys are in for the long haul. You have to be in for the long haul. This is not something we're going to resolve in a few weeks of meeting here. You're going to have to apply the assignments that we talk about. You're going to have to be consistent with it. And she is going to have to see some significant change over, there's actually going to be 3 things. It's going to have to be significant change. In other words, something that really stands out in her attention. It's going to have to be consistent change. In other words, change that remains consistent over time. With those 2 things, a fairly radical change that she views coming from your behavior, consistent over time, then and only then will she begin to reduce her resentment level. And she probably has lost trust. She's probably given up hope in some cases. And she's also probably reluctant to give you the benefit of the doubt so early, even if she does witness some significant change, because if she were here, she would say, well, I know there's been times before when he's changed, supposedly changed, but it never lasted very long. And it was just a matter of time before he went back to his old ways. So even if she saw some consistent change in you, a significant change in your empathy level, we'll say, she still wouldn't be necessarily willing to acknowledge it, because she would be concerned that if I start having hope again in him and he lets me down again, I'm not sure I can handle it. So she may even be withholding affection or acknowledgement or praise or pointing out that you're actually doing something right for fear of being let down again. Everybody in here is in for a long haul deal. You have to be willing to tough this out and realize that this fix, for the lack of a better term, is not going to happen anytime soon. That's not to say you wouldn't see some improvement if you're doing the assignments. You should be able to see some improvement in her response to you, but it's not going to be anything real super observable or noticeable for quite a while, because again, she's going to have to see significant change, and she's going to have to see that spread out over the course of the next several months before she's going to have a change in attitude. And that change of attitude in her mind would be, you know what, he is making some significant changes, and he has been consistently doing so over the last 3 or 4 months. Maybe he really has turned the corner.
Hey guys, this is Mark. Feel free to email me. Right there's my email address. In the event that you would want to do a one-on-one session with me, we'll use Zoom. We'll meet for an hour. So if you are a neurotypical spouse struggling with your ASD spouse, or if you're an ASD spouse struggling with your neurotypical spouse, or I'm perfectly willing and prefer to meet with the 2 of you, where both husband and wife are there. I don't care who's on the spectrum, who's not. Sometimes I work with the NT husband and the ASD wife and vice versa. It doesn't really matter on my end. So feel free to email me and we'll set something up, okay? Thank you. Hey guys, this is Mark. Click on the join button underneath any of my videos, then click on members only videos, and then click on join. And for $9.99 a month, you'll have access to members only videos, which are excerpts from previous workshops I've conducted for NT partners, ASD partners, and the neurodiverse couple. New videos will be uploaded weekly.